It's Kesha. Welcome and welcome back. We are on our next reading in the Aquarian. It's chapters 94 and 95. And as I promised, this begins the Sermon of the Mount. So let us go ahead and center down by closing our eyes. Taking a deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in and out. And just feel yourself becoming more and more present in this time and space in your body. Lovingly and gently recall all parts of you back to yourself, knowing that all the necessary parts are being cleansed as they move through the ethers. And as you feel them cementing themselves into place, go ahead and take a breath to seal them in. Feeling yourself more whole and more powerful. And now see a column of white light gently descend down over you. The light of peace, unity, oneness. And just breathe that in. Feeling it illuminate all the dark corners. Dissolving anything that is not like unto itself. Feeling yourself whole and bright. And now gently lift up in that column, lifting up higher and higher out of the worldly way, out of our physicality. Out of earthly concerns. And finding ourselves in this space of peace, love, and knowing. The feeling that reminds us that we are spirit, and that is all we need to know. Spirit is always triumphant over matter. When you feel yourself ready and most receptive, go ahead and gently open your eyes. I know I could do that for myself throughout the week, but doing it with you all is so much better. My goodness. Okay. Notes for later. And so we start with 94 and 5. The Sermon on the Mount. Jesus reveals to the 12 the secret of prayer, the model prayer, the law of forgiveness, the holy fast, the evil of deceit, almsgiving. The Sermon on the Mount continued. Jesus pronounces the 8 Beatitudes and the 8 woes, speaks words of encouragement, emphasizes the exalted character of the apostolic work. Apostolic work is simply the work of the apostles, and apostles are one who are sent on a mission. All right, so going back to 94. Next morning, ere the sun had risen, Jesus and the 12 went to a mountain near the sea to pray. And Jesus taught the 12 disciples how to pray. He said, "Prayer is the deep communion of the soul with God. So when you pray, do not deceive yourselves as do the hypocrites who love to stand on the streets and in the synagogues and pour out many words to please the ears of men. And they adorn themselves with pious airs that they may have the praise of men. They seek the praise of men, and their reward is sure. But when you pray, go to the closet of your soul, close all the doors, and in the holy silence pray. You need not speak a multitude of words, nor yet repeat the words again and then again as the heathens do. Just say, 'Our Father God, who art in heaven, holy is thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our needed bread. Help us forget the debts that other people owe to us, that all our debts may be discharged. and shield us from the tempter's snares that are too great for us to bear. And when they come, give us the strength to overcome. If you would be discharged from all the debts you owe to God and man, the debts you have incurred If you would be discharged from all the debts you owe to God and man, the debts you have incurred by willfully transgressing the law, you must pass by the debts of every man. For as you deal with other men, your God will deal with you. And when you fast, as you may not advertise the deed. And when you fast, you may not advertise the deed. When fast the hypocrites, they paint their faces, look demure, assume a pious pose, that they may be seen as men to fast. A fast is a deed of soul, and like a prayer, it is a function of the silence of the soul. God never passes by unnoticed any prayer or fast. He walks within the silence, and his benedictions rest on every effort of the soul. Deception is hypocrisy, and you shall not assume to be what you are not. You may not clothe yourselves in special garb to advertise your piety, nor yet assume the tone of voice that men conceive to be a holy voice. And when you give aid to the needy ones, blow not a trumpet in the street nor synagogue to advertise your gift. He who does alms for praise of men has his reward from men, but God regardeth not. In giving alms, do not let the right hand know the secret of the left. And Jesus and the 12 went up to the mountaintop, and Jesus said, 12 pillars of the church, apostles of the Christ, light bearers of the Son of Life, and ministers of God to men. In just a little while you must go forth alone and preach the gospel of the King, first to the Jews and then to all the world. And you shall go, not with a scourge of cords to drive, you cannot drive men to the King, but you shall go in love and helpfulness and lead the way to right and light. Go forth and say, the kingdom is at hand. Worthy are the strong in spirit, theirs the kingdom is. Worthy are the meek, they shall possess the land. Worthy they who hunger and who thirst for right, they shall be satisfied. Worthy are the merciful, and mercy shall be shown to them. Worthy they who gain the mastery of self, they have the key of power. Worthy are the pure in heart, and they shall see the King. Worthy they who are maligned and wronged because they do the right, their persecutors they shall bless. Worthy is the trustful child of faith, he shall sit in the throne of power. Be not discouraged when the world shall persecute you and call you cursed, but rather be exceedingly glad. The prophets and the seers and all the good of earth have been maligned. If you are worthy of the crown of life, you shall be slandered, vilified, and cursed on earth. Rejoice when evil men shall drive you from their ways and cause your name to be a hiss and byword in the street. I say rejoice, but deal in mercy with the doers of the wrong. They are but children at their play. They know not what they do. Rejoice not over fallen foes. As you help men rise from the depth of sin, so God will help you on your greater heights. Woe to the rich is gold and lands. They have temptations multiform. Woe unto men who walk at will in pleasure's path. Their ways are full of snares and dangerous pits. Woe to the proud, they stand upon the precipice. Destruction waits for them. Woe to the man of greed, for what he has is not his own, and lo, another comes, his wealth is gone. Woe to the hypocrite, his form is fair to look upon, his heart is filled with carcasses and dead men's bones. Woe to the cruel and relentless man, he is himself the victim of his deeds. The evil he would do to another man rebounds, the scourger is the scourged. Woe to the libertine who preys upon the virtues of the weak. The hour comes he will be the weak, the victim of a libertine of greater power. Woe unto you when all the world shall speak in praise of you. The world speaks not in praise of men who live within the holy breath. It speaks in praise of prophets false and of illusions base. You men who walk in holy breath are salt, the salt of the earth. But if you lose your virtue, you are salt in name alone, worth nothing more than dust. And you are light, are called the light of the world. No. And you are light, are called to light the world. A city on the hill cannot be hid. Its lights are seen afar. And while you stand upon the hills of men, hills of life, men see your light and imitate your works and honor God. Men do not light a lamp and hide it in a cask. They put it on a stand that it may light the house. You are the lamps of God. Must not stand in the shade of earth illusions, but in the open, high upon the stand. I am not come to nullify the law, nor to destroy, but to fulfill. The law, the prophets, and the Psalms were written in the wisdom of the Holy Breath and cannot fail. The heavens and earth that are will change and pass away. The word of God is sure. It cannot pass until it shall accomplish that whereunto it has been sent. Whoever disregards the law of God and teaches men to do the same becomes a debtor unto God and cannot see his face until he has returned and paid his debts by sacrifice of life. But he who hearkens unto God and keeps his law and does his will on earth shall rule with Christ. The scribes and Pharisees regard the letter of the law. They cannot comprehend the spirit of the law. And if your righteousness does not exceed the righteousness of scribe and Pharisee, you cannot come into the kingdom of the soul. It is not what man does that gives him right to enter through the gates. His password is his character, and his desire is his character. The letter of the law deals with the acts of man. The spirit of the law takes note of his desires. There is so much here, just so much here. So let us start with, So the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. I want to mention and point out that so often we hear this, because this section is taught so often in church all the time. We have the impression that he's talking to the multitudes. And in this case, he's not. He's talking to the 12. He's teaching them what they need to know for when they go out into the world. I think that's just an important thing to note. I'll go back to the King James and take a look and see if it's the same thing, but I certainly know it's the case in the Aquarian. What prayer is a deep communion of the soul with God. Often we talk about, people talk about sending thoughts and prayers, and they give that as just words. They don't actually do the act, which is going within, touching the God space within you, and sending that ray of love to those in need. And it's deep communion with God, and it is done in the self and for the self. It is not done to show others that, hey, I'm so great, I'm so pious, I pray. Yes, and then we get into, so he gives the what we're familiar with as the Lord's Prayer. And at the end of it, he says, if you would be discharged from all your debts, all the debts you owe to God and man, the debts you've incurred by willfully transgressing the law, then you must pass by the debts of every man. Passing by the debts of others, not taking, if we talk about the 4 agreements, not taking everything personally, not holding a grudge against a person. Forgive is the order there. So as we forgive another, then in those times when we falter, when we make a mistake, we can expect forgiveness. And we can ask forgiveness of ourselves as well. So that in its way, that is, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Pass by the debts of others, forgive others so that they forgive you. That is your key to shifting karma. That's why it says, later that, those who willfully transgress against the law will have to repay again and again until their debt is discharged with God. And that is the law of karma. So they will reincarnate until they have learned that particular lesson, and then they will be free of that. It's also a point of the law of grace, where the law of grace is the divine intervention with our miscreations, that when the effects of our miscreations come back to us, we are lifted to a higher level, so that rather than hitting us in the gut and causing a mortal body blow, maybe they graze us at the edges of our toes, right? The law of forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge. And forgiveness doesn't mean that the person was right, and it doesn't mean that you have to accept them back. It just means that you no longer hold a negative energy and charge to what they have done. I love this part, this 19, where it says, you may not clothe yourselves in special garb or advertise your piety, nor yet assume a tone of voice that men assume to be pious. You are to be authentic. You are to speak with your natural voice. And that's always important to me because, as some of you may know, I tend to curse. And I personally don't have a problem with it. And when I do, I don't. But that is part of my mode of expression. And I don't feel bad about it. And I feel like the exhortation here is to be your authentic self, not to try to be what you think other people expect of you. And so there are times, I think, early in my ministerial career where I thought, oh my goodness, if I drop the F-bomb the way that I do, that people will question the validity of the inside of spirit that I deliver. And so I tried to curtail that, but it felt inauthentic. It felt like I was trying to change to please people that I didn't even know, under the assumptions that I don't even live under. And it was pretty ridiculous. So I am very comfortable at this point being myself, and I curse or not, and it doesn't mean anything about the level of my sincerity of faith or depth and wisdom of understanding, or the ability to express it to other people. The important thing with communication is to speak to people in a way that they can hear it. And that is what I always endeavor to do. So there. Moving on. Okay, so in chapter 95, we get the Beatitudes and the 8 woes. So worthy are they that, and then woe to them that. Okay, so two of my favorites here. Worthy they who gain the mastery of self. They have the key to power. I don't know if I recognized it when I first read the Aquarian years ago, or, if it's just been something that's always been a part of me. But my quest has always been for the fullest expression of all that I am, the revealing of all of my potential, the realization of all of my potential, so that I can live, move, and have my being in my fullest expression of power. That requires a mastery of self. It requires a discipline, and it requires, attention to the darker parts of self that we might like to keep hidden, and all of those things that, are part of the initiations to higher levels of consciousness. And I realized when reading this again, today, that yes, my goal is power, and it is the self-mastery and the personal development that I go through and that I hope to teach others that helps get us there. And so I do so love that. And the second half of that is a little bit further down in verse 14, where he says, worthy is the trustful child of faith. He shall sit in the throne of power. And some of you may know, many of you may not. I recently went through like a 6, 7, 8 month stint where I had this existential crisis where it felt like I had been let down by God before. So how am I going to trust you again with this thing that is bigger than obviously what I'm capable of doing on my own? And so I turned away from all of that. It was a desolate couple of months, but whatever the lesson I had to learn in that, I did learn, and I got out of it. And it is so true that you have to have faith in your faith. And what I notice now, having finally, overcome that, is that I am inspired beyond belief right now. I am in an incredibly hot period where I am coming up with so many ideas and making so much progress on ideas that have been latent, that I am assured of the blessed outcome because I have faith in my faith. And so, yes, there are times that we falter. What's important is that we come back to it. And so there is power in maintaining your faith. It's so interesting. We think of power as this big, boisterous thing that we wield, but really, true power comes from a quiet discipline. And that's something to consider. Okay. Yes. So verses 18, 19, 20. Rejoice when evil men shall drive you from their ways and cause your name to be a hiss and byword in the street. He's telling people that, as he's telling the disciples that, and they go out to the world, there are people that are going to curse and malign them. But hold true, it means you're in good company, because there are many who have come before you that have tried to speak the word of truth, and they've been maligned as well. So if you're in good company and know that, then it will be okay. When your light shines bright, weak people will try to get you to dim your light, rather than either putting on sunglasses and dealing with themselves, or taking up themselves as the discipline and doing what they need to do for them that will bring them into their light. It's that's where you get that question, who do you think you are? Or people try to, and they gossip and talk bad about you when you're just trying to do your very best and be your best. People can only assume of you what they know to be true for themselves. And I'm not kidding. It is always those motherfuckers with no abracadabra who try to tell you what to do with your magic. Do not let them. That is not the power that we are willing to give up today, especially since it's so hard fought and won through our own mastery of self, right? But we can pass by their faltering, knowing that they simply don't know any better, right? So forgive them, because they know not what they do, right? So verse 35, I am not come to fulfill the law. I'm not come to nullify the law nor to destroy, but to fulfill it. The law that he's talking about. So Moses in the Old Testament brings the 10 Commandments. That is the rules of discipline that people are to live by to be in concert with God. Jesus comes in the New Testament, and his message is one of mercy and love. And so he is fulfilling the promise. It's not that he's come to destroy the discipline of the 10 Commandments. He's come to show you that by maintaining that discipline, here are the rewards that you get to reap. And it's not being under the law as much as it is expression of love and self. And so think about when you discipline yourself to a purpose. So for instance, if you're trying to lose weight because you want to, wear the clothes of your choosing or feel good in your body, there is, a certain amount of time that you have to be disciplined. And the answer to many things that you would like to do, like eating hamburgers and ice cream and pie, I'm not talking about anybody we know or anything. I'm just saying, you have to say no to those things because you're looking for a greater reward and benefit. And so by maintaining discipline for a time, then you are able to enjoy the fruits of that discipline, which is being comfortable in a body that works for you and not against you. And then he goes on to say, when the heavens and the earth will change and pass away, the word of God is sure. It cannot pass until it will accomplish whereunto it has been sent. And that immediately brought to mind Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. What's important to know about that particular line is the word prosper means to bring into form. So it is incredibly important that we be impeccable with our word, and that we speak of ourselves to others and about others positively, because the words that we go out, or the words that we say that go out, come back to us in the form in which they were sent. And so when you speak negatively about yourself, you can expect a negative expression or a negative experience. When you speak positively of yourself and others, then you meet with harmony in your relationships. It's important to realize that of all that you say, all of what you're saying is going to come back to you manifest, and we get the composite of what we send out. So that's why it behooves us to be as positive as possible all of the time, so that we get the greater return on positivity, rather than either, if we say a positive word to somebody, a positive word about ourselves, and then go gossip about somebody else. Well, there's there's one forward and one back, so we're in the same space and we never feel like there's movement. So that's why it's important for us to speak positively, speak up, right? And the last point that I wanted to just reiterate, because sometimes it gets lost with all of these other words and concepts. Man's password into the gates of heaven, which is heaven, is, the kingdom of God is at hand. Heaven is the activity of God in our life. It's not something we experience later on after death. It is, we have the ability to experience heaven here on earth, and that is simply the activity of God in our lives, which would be heavenly, right? Our password to that space is our character. It is how we interact both with ourselves and with others, trying to do our highest and our best. And it is our desire that is our character. So if we act one way but truly desire something else, again, we're going to get that composite, or likely, because desires carries with them strong emotions, and manifestation is born on emotion, we will likely see in our world the expression of our base desire, when really what we want, if we're looking to live that heavenly life, to experience the true activity of God in our world, we need to be doing our best in our private thoughts and in the words that we speak publicly. I said it was going to be a lot, and the Sermon on the Mount, as it's written here, I think it's like 7 chapters, and I was tempted to do it all because you want the whole thing, but it's just so much, so we're not going to do that. We're going to just keep doing our 2 and 3 chapters at a time. So come on back next week, and we'll take our next step down the rest of the journey. I will wait until next week and love you in the meantime. Sounds good to me. I'll see you. Bye.